Good evening, everyone. I am Deirdre Shetler, and I hope you are ready to dive deeper into Google Classroom. We're going to explore some new tools and see what we can find. Here we go. I'm going to put the presentation link on the screen for you, and it will be at the beginning of the presentation as well as at the end. Here we go. So if you are here, it is because you want to do what's best for kids and you want to do it better. And that is what I love about teachers, because teachers are always trying to do things bigger and better than they already do, which is saying a lot. So I'm super, super glad to have you all here. If you want to test out some of the things we're talking about, there's a class here on Google Classroom that you could try this out on. Some of the things have some examples in there that you can try out and see what they look like on the student side. There is also a notes page with some additional links that I have listed here in yellow, if that is something of interest to you. Also, like I said, here is the link. Here is a link for the presentation itself, if you need that. So that's goo.gl/2q capital Q, capital P, small o, small q, capital H. So I will keep going with that. And give you just a minute to look that over. And then we'll keep going. I am a STEM instructional technology support specialist in the Cartwright School District, and I love to help teachers with Google things. I'm Google certified in level 1 and level 2, and I just submitted my application to be a trainer. So that's where I am at, and I hope you all have lots of cool experiences to share with us as well. So the first thing I want to look at is organizing your stream. That is something that I know is a battle for people immediately when they realize that it's not something you can just click and drag things all over. So it is very helpful to have a couple of tools to assist with that. So the first one I want to look at is just moving things to the top. And when you have an existing post already in Google Classroom, there's 3 dots to the right of it that all you have to do is click on those 3 dots and click move to the top. And so anything that you need to be fresh in students' minds, that is a great tool to do that with. So that's what I do, honestly, most of the time, just to keep things, if I need something the kids can't find something, that's where I go with it. The next option is topics, using the topics to label or tag your posts. So you might, if you're an elementary teacher, you might label them with like language arts, social studies, reading, writing, those kinds of things, so that kids can click on the social studies tag on the side and they'll see all of the different posts that are assigned to that topic, and only those and nothing else. So it just sort of helps filter the stream. I have also had people, as a way of combating that, have people, or with just all the stuff that ends up in the stream, label things by quarter or by the unit that they're doing. I've had people label them, even just make separate classes, honestly. Instead of using topics, some people just make it an entirely separate class for each unit they do or for each subject that they teach. So it sort of depends on how you want to organize it, but those are both ways to do that. Scheduling posts is another option. So when you are creating an assignment, you can click the drop-down arrow beside the post button and you can schedule it to post at a designated time. Now, as a point of reference, as you'll see in my presentation, the star indicates that this is something you can only do on the computer and not mobile. There are a number of things like this that are not, that start on the computer as options. That's always the first place they roll things out, and then they will ideally down the line roll them out to be something you could do on mobile, but not always. So there are some things that just aren't doable on a mobile device yet on the teaching side generally. I'm not 100% sure you can see my presentation, so I'm going to double check that I am doing the right thing. There, okay. Let me try one more thing. That's not the one I wanted. There we go. That's the one I wanted. Okay, so in case you have not been seeing this, whoa, that did not work. Let's stop that. Um, okay, so I'm going to keep going and I will find out if this is something you can see yet or not. So I'm just going to keep going. Uh, Apologies. Let me get back to my presentation. Okay. Um, so just to illustrate some of those things that I showed you, so you can always move things to the top with this move to the top button. This is already at the top. You can use these topics to label your assignments as well as announcements or anything else you put in the stream. So you can create topics and those will label them as things that you can click on and only those things will show up in your stream then. It will filter it that way. Okay, so next, classroom management. So there are always some things that are that we could use some help managing student behavior. And I always tell people to go with the digital citizenship method first, which is to teach kids the way they should be behaving, and try not to punish first. But there are some things that are just really helpful little tools with Google Classroom that are very helpful. So one is classroom commenting. You can change commenting privileges for the entire class. So if you go to the Students tab on the left, you can choose when kids can comment on things and when not as a whole. So if I go um, to my Students tab and I can see over here that, oh, I think they moved this. Oh my goodness. Um, hmm. I don't know why that's not showing up all of a sudden. Oh, that's right. I apologize. They just moved this in like the last week. This is now on the stream. So it says students can post and comment, and you can choose to change those things whenever you want. So I've got students can post and comment, students can only comment, or only teachers can post or comment. So that is something that I have found to be very useful if I want students to have a public live conversation, or excuse me, not public, but public to the class on the stream, which I do sometimes. That's a really good way to allow it. And then when when either we are done with the conversation or somebody posts something inappropriate, which can come sooner than one would hope, then we just shut it down so that only teachers can post and comment, and you can change that back and forth anytime you want. So that is one way to manage for the entire class. If you want to manage a particular student, what you can do is click their name and then under actions, you just click mute. And they're not going to get a message or anything. Nobody else is going to know that they're muted. All that's going to happen is that when that kid tries to write something, you will see they just won't have the space to type it. So that's the only difference there. And you can mute and unmute them at will for as long as you need. So that is how that works. We'll unmute her. Next. Oh yes, now I'm gonna have to change these screenshots because this is now old. So there are definitely some reasons you would want kids to comment in Google Classroom. It allows them to debate a question digitally. It allows them to practice commenting in a safe space, which is a really important thing for them to do. And it encourages everybody's voices to be heard. So those are definitely some reasons to consider that. And if you want to hear what kids have to say about something, other options would be the question format or a private comment in an assignment. In terms of grading, another great strategy is to try to click less. This is not even a strategy. This is a minor trick. But the less clicking, the better. And Google Classroom, as great as it is to have everybody turn in Google Docs, it's a lot of clicking. Instead of paper shuffling, it's clicking. So that is one thing we try to avoid. So the way we're going to do this is to open up your assignment space in Google Classroom. These ones don't have anything turned in. Let me try this one. And once you find your folder in Drive, actually, I can do it this way. Once you find the folder in Drive, which is your classroom folder, you can do it this way. So you find the folder that you want. Oh, shoot. And then you click the first item in the folder. Just click it once. Don't open it, but click it once. And then you click the I to preview it, and you get a perfect picture of it. And you can just use the arrows or your arrow key on your keyboard to arrow through them. So this is a really fast way because you're not opening a million tabs and it's really quick. So that's one way to do this. If you want to leave a comment within the Google Doc itself, this is not a good way to do it. But if you're just writing your grades on another piece of paper, or you've got another tab open, I mean that you've got your screen split. This is one way to do that. Where you could be entering the grades on one side and looking at the documents on the other side. And this works with all of Google Files. So it is very, very, very super handy. The other another option would be using the split screen extension, which is from Alice Keeler, and she writes amazing scripts that are just super little and helpful. And all it does is it splits your grade book and your classroom side by side, so you don't have to do it. It just is one click instead of readjusting things every time. Another option is another one she wrote that will open up multiple tabs at once. So if you do need to actually be working inside their documents and editing them, or leaving comments on them within the document itself, this multiple tab one will let you open 20 or 30 tabs at a time with one click instead of having to double click 30 files or whatever. So that can be very helpful. Next. I think I should stop doing it on the presentation one. I don't know if that's helpful. A couple other points just to think about with grading. You can change the assignment point value. Not everybody knows that. All you have to do is where it says 100 points, just click on that, on the 100, and it will allow you to change it, just like you would change the size of a font or something in Google Docs. Another point to make sure you're aware of is when you are grading something, when a student submits a document to you, the ownership, assuming it's a Google file, the ownership of that file becomes yours. You are the temporary owner of that file. The student can still see it, but they cannot change anything about it once they hit submit. One thing to bear in mind, though, is that they will, what's the word I'm looking for? The student's ownership. Oh, if they unsubmit the file, they will not be able to change it after that. Excuse me, I said that incorrectly. If they unsubmit the file, they can change anything they want. They become the owner again, and they can resubmit it after that. So that's important to be aware of, that they can do that. But there is also a submission history that will show you specifically who has turned in what and whether they have unsubmitted and resubmitted, if you have a reason to suspect that. And you can always check the revision history as well to see when a document was edited. So, for example, if I click here where it says all changes saved in Drive on this document, and the same thing is in a Google Doc, a doc or a spreadsheet, you get this option to see the revision history, and it tells you exactly who changed what and exactly what time. And you could go back and see what was changed, where it was changed, and go back to that version if you want to. So that, and you just get this big restore this version button if you need to. So that is handy, but I also wanted to show you this. If a student has submitted something, you will see, this. It says underneath their name, it says see history, and it tells you when they submitted it. And if they have submitted and unsubmitted and resubmitted, you'll see it all documented with exactly the time that it happened underneath there. So that is where you would find that information. Whoops, lost my presentation. Let's go back this way. Okay. Um, so that is how you would view that. A couple other things to be aware of. I always point out that revision history to kids just to make sure they are aware that whatever they type, whether they think it's a joke or not, and it's okay because they deleted it, that I can still go back and see it. And that is a little unnerving to students. So that is something I always make sure to point out to them, um, so that they know. Also, another change recently to Google Classroom is that you can now click on the student's name on your roster and you can see all of the work that they have either submitted or have outstanding and left to do. So this is a great tool for parent-teacher conferences if you wanted to print off a list of all the things that kids have done, what their grades are, and what they still have yet to turn in, the missing work. Another point to note about grading, if you're not aware, if you set up a Google form as a quiz under the gear, I believe. If you set it up as a quiz, give questions a point value, and enter an answer key. When you do that, and you create an assignment and attach that form in Google Classroom, it will give you an option to say, do you want to import the scores from this quiz into Google Classroom? And if you say yes, it will automatically, as soon as kids complete the quiz, it will auto grade it and it will dump the numbers straight into Google Classroom for you, which is super, super handy. So I highly recommend that if you've not tried that yet. Also, I've got a link here to a variety of grading extensions as well in that notes document that I listed at the beginning. There are lots of cool grading extensions there as well. There's, excuse me, tons of things out there that people have written to assist in the grading process, the digital grading process, excuse me. So here are a couple of little quick GIFs that will tell you how to change the point value by just clicking on it and typing in the right number, as well as checking the submission history for something. All right, so another point about grades is that you can download the grades, and there's something to be aware of here, is that you can always click on this gear on any assignment, and it will give you these options. You can either copy to Google Sheets, you can download them to CSV, or excuse me, download all the grades to CSV or download just those grades. So, and again, CSV is essentially something that will open in Excel. A thing to be aware of here is that this is going to function like a progress report. So if you download this grade sheet, it is only going to be, it's going to be all the things you have done in that Google Classroom, or the students have done up until that point. So if you add another assignment after that, or if you go back and change somebody's grade in Google Classroom, none of that is going to show up in this spreadsheet. What it is basically a point in time photo of how they have done so far, and it's not connected to anything. It will not update anything that you change later. So be aware of that. On the other hand, it does give you some really nice things where it auto, what's the word I'm looking for? It does the average of all the grades for the class average, as well as each student's average over the course of all the grades that they've gotten so far. So be aware that's there. When you do that, it saves into your classroom folder. So that's where it goes into Drive. Yeah, so that can be handy in some ways. For the record, in case you weren't aware, Google Classroom is not meant to be a full LMS like Blackboard or Moodle or whatever. So it does not have all kinds of features built in like that. Google knows that basically every district has their own grading tool that they're using. And so everybody's going to have to import their grades somewhere else anyway. So that's one thing to be aware of, is that grading is not the primary purpose of Google Classroom. The primary purpose is a method of transferring files. So that's something to be aware of. That if you're frustrated with the grading options in Google Classroom, it's not meant to be your full grade book. So just bear that in mind. One of the wisest things I think I maybe heard from this is treat Google Classroom as the place to give feedback, and your grade book, your real grade book, as the place to give grades. So Google Classroom is a great way to send kids comments back and forth about how they're doing in class on particular assignments through the private comment stream or option, as well as comments in the document itself. It's not the ideal function for grading, for a full-blown gradebook tool. So that's just something to think about. The About tab is something that not everybody is aware of, so I just want to make sure people know about that. So that is a great place to put any frequently used materials. I mean, if you're a college professor, this would be where you put your syllabus and your list of assignments for the semester. For the rest of us, this might be something where it's forms, or maybe it's something you have kids fill out every week to document their reading log, or it's a template that they always use when they are creating new vocabulary words, things like that. Anything that they're going to be seeing on a regular basis and that they're going to need just to reference. Maybe it's like the formula sheet for math. That would be a place to put it. Any of those things they need to see regularly. That also, you can include documents, forms, anything like that, as well as just general links. So maybe it's things you want them to do when they're done, if they finish early, or kids who need extra practice on typing. It's, that's where you can put those kinds of links. Also, as a side note, that is where you would invite co-teachers if you have people who need to be accessing all of your class materials as well. You cannot edit your About tab on a mobile device. That's one thing to know. So here are just some examples of things you might want to put on your About tab. The question format I mentioned earlier is a great formative assessment tool, and it's so super simple. You can use it, like I said, as formative assessment. The question format is only multiple choice or short answer, and it's a one question thing. So it's one and done. It is not meant to be a quiz in really any form. It is just meant to be a quick check about what kids think about something. So it could be bell work. It could be an exit ticket. You might use it as a discussion forum, because after kids post, then they can see everything else everybody else wrote. So that's really helpful. Especially if you want them to make it into a discussion where they can reply to each other, which is a setting you can change when you are creating a question from the little plus button in the corner. So that is what you can do with discussions. With polls, you can, so in other words, another multiple choice, because when it's a short answer question, as soon as the kids post their answer, they can see what everybody else wrote, every word that everybody else wrote. With a poll, though, that would be a multiple choice. So as soon as they answer a multiple choice question, they'll see essentially what looks like a bar graph showing how many people put what answer. It doesn't say who, but it shows what they might be thinking. So that's a good tool to use as a poll, whether to have them rate something, how well they like something, which thing they want to do the most, their opinion if somebody did the right thing or not in your reading, that kind of thing. Google Classroom is getting better at differentiating. So if you were not aware, you can specifically assign things to a group of students instead of all of the students. So you do that by clicking next to the title of the class. There's a thing that says all students, and you can uncheck that, and you can select anybody you want to get that. I've used that in a variety of ways, whether it's dividing groups up who need specific information. Each group gets their own version of the assignment, or I've had kids who don't speak English, and so I'll send them the Spanish version and everybody else the English version, or things like that. So there are a variety of ways to do that. You could even use it to make digital stations, where everybody has a different task to work on, and they could be rotating among those things. Another thing that I love to do with Google Classroom is, well, I should say, this is something that is really easy to do via Google Classroom. This is not technically a Google Classroom thing, but it makes Google Classroom, it works really well with Google Classroom. So collaborative slideshows are really easy to do. All you have to do is make a slideshow template, which this is a really basic one. It's just a template where you've got one slide for every kid, and you assign them a slide number, or maybe you want to actually go through and put their name on each slide, and then you put directions on that slide, on every slide that you make, and then all they have to do is go through, put in the information on their slide, and then you've got a whole set of all of these things. So I just put kids' favorite food on this one, so that might be something interesting to do at the beginning of the year, just to have them try this out and get used to it. Because I will tell you right now, the one dangerous thing about this is that everybody, you need to make sure people are 100% clear which slide is theirs, and they're paying very close attention to the the numbers on the side if you've given them a number, and to know that when they do this, uh, if they're messing around with anybody else's slide, there is going to be a consequence, because that's the thing. This is something that everybody's going to be working in the same document. So it's really easy to just click on somebody else's slide and start typing accidentally or on purpose. So that's something to be aware of. I have teachers who have used this as a learning experience, purely as a learning experience, so that when it does happen, they can point out how frustrating it is and that most people didn't enjoy that. They can show how the revision history will fix things. And also, a lot of times I've had teachers just give them time to play. Like, okay, fine, go nuts, mess with everybody's stuff. You've got 5 minutes, then we're going to go back in the revision history. We're going to try again. Those kinds of strategies. So just be aware that is one thing to know might happen. And if it does, it is a great learning experience. But after that, you've got a nice collection. Once everybody can pull it together, you've got a nice collection of lots of interesting things that they might have made. So as you do that in Google Classroom, you would want to make sure that you set it to, let's see here. So you pick your collaborative slideshow, and you want to make sure that it's set to students can edit. If you make a copy for each kid, they are not going to be able to see anybody else's work, and you'll have 30 slideshows with one slide each in it. So that's the one you want to make sure you do. Students can edit, and then they'll all be able to see it. Again, this would be a cool thing to do with that differentiation where each group gets their own to work on. So you've only got 3 or 4 people working on each one, depending on how you set it up. So that's something to be aware of. So here's just a bunch of ideas I thought of, ways you could use these. So maybe it's everyone describing a different kind of animal adaptation, different ways to be kind to everybody, like an ongoing class dictionary where everybody has access, and maybe you pick a different kid each day to add a new word. Having every kid take a picture of something that relates to something you're doing in class. If you're using mobile devices, make a mini biography book about different people, different state, maybe it's different state reports, that kind of thing. Riddles where kids can go in and add their own riddles as they have time, and then maybe you present one every day to kids. I don't know, that kind of thing. So there's lots of cool ways you can do that. Okay, Guardian summaries is the next thing. And again, if this is not something you are aware of, it's really helpful if you have parents who are interested. Now, one thing to note is that this is not parents getting this is not parents joining the classroom. They will not see the stream. They will not see the grade book, any of those things. What they will do is they'll get an email summary each week of the things that are going on in the class. So they'll get a list of missing work from the student. They'll get a list of upcoming work that they have. So a list, and I think it has an assignment description as well. And then things that the teacher has recently posted, just so they could be aware. So that is what that looks like, and that can be a great tool to make sure you send everybody an invite at the beginning. So even if they don't read it, you at least have documentation that they are getting that information. And if they're choosing not to look at it, that's on them. But that's a good way to at least make sure that you are doing your due diligence to make sure they're getting the information and it's not getting lost in a backpack or something like that. So that is that's Guardian's email summaries. And one quick note of something I had in here, I just wanted to point this out. If you are not aware of Google Doc stickers, it's super cool. So this is an example of one. You can use them in docs and slideshows or whatever. So all it is an image. So you take an image from wherever you want, and this is well and good. You just add it into your Google Doc. That's not that exciting. What is exciting is how you can do it with Google Keep, and that is what I love, love, love. So what you can do is you open up your document, you open up your Keep notepad, where you have saved the image, which you can you can just drag an image into a Google Keep note, and it will save it. You don't need to put anything else in it. You don't need to put a title or anything. So if I put my Google Keep notepad here, then all I have to do is find my stickers and, oh no, where'd it go? Uh-oh, the sticker isn't showing. Anyway, all you have to do is open your sticker and you can just drag it into your assignment. So that's really handy if you've got a bunch of stickers saved, which you would label as stickers so they would come up. I'm not sure when, oh, there it is. And then you just drag it out and it's there. So that is a nice little tool if you are not aware of that. Again, all you do is you save an image into a Google Keep note, and then you can just drag it right into a document or a presentation. And that's super nice. So this little link in here is a link to an article called Google Doc Stickers. So if you have not seen that, Google that and check it out. Okay, so a Guardian email summary is not access to Google Classroom itself. Like I said, it's not access to their grades and it is not access to their files or their drive. If a student wants to share those things with their parent, particularly their files in Google Drive, they can do that. But that is not something that it does on its own, just to go back to that. And like I said, it's better than a progress report because it's more frequent. This is an example of what it would look like. Just missing work, things that are coming up, and recent activity in the class. And just to finish off, here are a couple of quick, a bunch of extensions and add-ons and things like that that will blow your mind because they're such awesome tools to use with Google. So hopefully you will know all of the things after this. Just kidding. There's so many things, but this is a bunch of them. So here are just a few tools that link directly to Google Classroom, as in they've got a button in their assignment tools that say, share this to Google Classroom, and it will automatically show up in kids' streams. You don't need to save links and transfer things. That way it just goes straight there. Excuse me. Another one that's on there that I've used is Typing Club, and that's really a really handy tool that will also go straight to Google Classroom. Oh, by the way, if you're not aware of Insert Learning, definitely check it out. It's a really, really cool way to annotate websites and put questions and notes and links and videos straight into existing websites. Very cool. Highly recommend it. Here's some Chrome extensions that are really great. So Share to Classroom is an extension that you and the kids would both install. And if you can basically send them a website and it will automatically pop up on their screen. So you don't even need to put it in the stream of Classroom. They don't have to go to Classroom. If they have that extension, it will automatically pop up on their screen. So that's super handy. Kami is a tool that lets you annotate and collaborate on PDFs if that is of use to you. And G Suite Training is kind of cool. That is one that lets you kind of handhold if you've got people who need extra help on things, or if you're a person like that, which is just fine. All you need to do is install the G Suite Training extension, and it's a little bit different. Most extensions show up here. This one is going to show up right here. And when you are in a Google tool such as this, it will automatically go, oh, you're in slides. Here's some things you might want to know. And if you type something in, it will bring up things that relate to that, and it will bring up just a little, usually less than 2-minute video that shows how to do that thing, just like that. So that is a really handy tool for that, and it sort of just hand holds you through that process. So I really like that one. And let's see here. Bitmoji, if you're not aware, Bitmojis are great digital stickers. All you have to do on those is click your Bitmoji app and drag them in to Google Files. Super helpful. So that's a nice way to do that. And there is another add-on that I really love called Kaizenna that lets you leave text and audio comments in Google Docs. And there's another one as well that lets you leave audio comments. It's called Read and Write. That's a good one as well. And again, those are extensions, so those are only available on a Chrome browser. But they're super, super useful. As you can see, I've got more than my fair share. These apps are ones that will let you directly communicate with, create these files within Drive. So Pixlr is a great photo and collage editor. Pear Deck is similar to like a Nearpod, where it's a presentation tool that lets you automatically control what's displaying on kids' screens as well. Powtoon lets you make digital cartoons. WeVideo is a sort of a digital version, cloud-based version of iMovie. And Lucidchart would be a nice mind mapping tool. And to get to those, all you do is you go to New, and under More, you'll see any tool that you've connected. You can go to those, and they will make a file that will automatically, so for instance, if you did Pear Deck, it will automatically make a Pear Deck file that is saved in your Google Drive. So that makes it just all the slicker to get things to kids. All right. And last one, that is if you want to earn any extra credit on this assignment for PD hours, you can contact me and I can assist you in that with that process. So that's it. Again, here's the presentation link. My name is Deirdre Shetler, which is tricky to spell, but I'm going to spell it for you. D-I-E-R-D-R-E, and Shetler, not shelter. And you can find that on Twitter. And you can find me on Twitter at Deirdre Shetler, or my email is deirdre.shetler@csd83.org if you need anything. And again, here is the link to this presentation. Thanks. Have a great night.